Welcome to the classes of Vedic astrology. And today we will be learning and understanding about a dosh which is quite common because if in case you have been watching videos of various astrologers, then such a particular dosh causes an alarm because this dosh is quite dangerous. Like if you talk about like from a Vedic astrological point of view, because whatever this dosh that we will be discussing today creates a quite a kind of a mental and even a physical havoc in an individual's life. And this particular dosh is known as Angarak dosh. In some situations, this Angarak dosh can also be an Angarak yoga. Alright, so Angarak dosh is basically formed because of the combination of Mars and Rahu. In somewhere Mars and Ketu also forms Angarak dosh. But today in this particular class, we will be discussing about the conjunction, the yukti of Mars and Rahu and how they are forming this Angarak dosh. So the first symptom that a person who has a negative Angarak dosh, means basically an Angarak dosh, is that person will be highly aggressive. And when this particular dosh is negative, like it is an Angarak dosh, this aggression will be quite destructive in nature. It is not a positive aggression. Such kind of a high aggression basically creates huge amount of turmoils in that individual's life, personal life as well as professional life. Highly aggression, when I say it's that individual for on frequent basis, on multiple occasions, that individual, such individual who has a negative Angarak dosh will lose their anger, will find it very difficult to control their anger. So the surrounding peoples definitely point out that such people have anger issues, temperament issues. They are very violent in nature, very aggressive in nature. Other people find it very uncomfortable to freely mix with them because you never know how such people will react in many situations. Such kind of things basically happens when that Angarak dosh is negative. All right. And health problems, definitely when a person has such anger problems, has frequently suffers from high aggression, then it will definitely have health problems on that individual. And the most basic and the most common health issue for such individuals is high blood pressure. So whenever such dosh will be forming, the most common remedy that a person can do is, even without getting specific recommendation for Angarak dosh, even if Mars and Rahu are getting conjunct, even if Mars and Ketu are getting conjunct, and if such people will feel that they are having a lot of temperament issues, they find it very difficult to stay cool, they always fall prey to anger, to violence, to destructive thoughts, to quarrels, to fights, verbal fights. Physical fights is completely on an extreme level. So under such situation, the first thing that such individual is recommended is such individuals can wear a silver kara. All right, a pure silver kara. It's a silver bracelet, 92.5 pure silver. And meditation is a must. Such individuals, even if they find it very difficult to meditate, such individuals needs to meditate. It's absolutely recommended for them. I know when people have very frequent anger issues, they will find it very difficult to focus and stay calm. But that is why such individual, they need to sincerely, honestly, and put some huge efforts to meditate. Because if you do meditation, if you reach to a state of meditation, if you meditate on a daily basis, I'm talking about those individuals who has Angarak dosh, it is tremendously beneficial. So that's why I'm saying it. Definitely other remedies are there that I'll teach you how to understand. But first, these are the things that a person can immediately do, even without, if they are feeling that they are facing such symptoms, if they are facing such kind of problems, then such meditation is a must. And if you can also wear a silver kara. So let's understand how to analyze and how to interpret whether Angarak dosh is forming in a particular Lagna chart. So you can draw a Leo Lagna chart. The first house is ruled by Leo. So again, I had said previously, Angarak dosh, I will be looking in this particular class. I will be teaching you in this particular class with the help of Mars and Rahu, because I'll not be using Mars and Ketu, because Mars and Rahu, I believe, is the proper Angarak dosh. Angarak means it's burning, it's completely fiery, and both Mars and Rahu has that fiery nature, that fiery characteristics. So when these two fiery planets combine, an Angarak dosh is formed. All right, only for Mars and Rahu, and Mars and Ketu also. So in the Leo Lagna chart, if Mars and Rahu, first of all, let's understand, an Angarak dosh, a negative Angarak dosh will form when only both Mars and Rahu are Maraka for that particular Lagna chart. If either of the two planets is positive, it's Yoga Karka for a particular chart from various situations, then the Angarak dosh will not be forming. Then whatever I had discussed, that frequent anger issues, all of these things might not be visible. So a negative Angarak dosh will form when both Mars and Rahu will be Maraka for that particular Lagna chart, completely Maraka. All right, so let's understand using the example of a Leo Lagna chart first. Now in Leo Lagna chart, Mars is Yoga Karka because Mars has the lordship of two good houses, the 4th house and the 9th house. And I had already discussed in my previous classes how you will understand whether Rahu is Yoga Karka or Maraka in a particular Lagna chart. I had discussed in details in one of my previous class. So in the 1st house, Mars is Yoga Karka. Rahu is Maraka because Rahu is not sitting in its friendly sign. So here an average Angarak dosh will be forming. It will give bad effects. At least if one of the planet is also Maraka, then also some negative effects of Angarak dosh will be seen. If both of the planets are Yoga Karka, then definitely Angarak dosh will not be there. Then it will be a Angarak yoga. Aggressive nature of that particular person will be there, but that aggressive nature, that particular person will utilize in productive work, will utilize in specific areas of their life where that aggression will be required, which is going to bring well-being for other people around them. All right. In such cases, we say that Angarak is a yoga because both Mars and Rahu are completely Yoga Karka beneficial in that particular Lagna chart, and both are placed together. In the 2nd house of Leo Lagna, if Mars and Rahu are placed here, see again you have to understand, Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign. So Rahu is Yoga Karka, Mars is also Yoga Karka. So here there will be a Angarak yoga. All right, not a dosh. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the 3rd house of the Leo Lagna, Then here also there will be Angarak Yoga. Because again Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign, that is in the sign of Libra, and Rahu also is sitting in its own house, its Karaka house, that is the third house. The third house is also the Karaka house for Mars. All right. So here both of the planets will give good results because both are sitting in their Karaka houses. Rahu is Yoga Karaka, Mars is Yoga Karaka. So here it will be a proper Angarak Yoga. Such person will do very well when it comes to any areas, any professional areas where aggression is required, like police department, armed forces, IS. You understand, right? Even like certain kind of sport activity. If Mars and Rahu are sitting in the fourth house of Leo Lagna, so here Rahu gets debilitated in the sign of Scorpio. So here Rahu is Neech. Mars, here again there will be some kind of Angarak Dosh because one of the planet is completely debilitated. Not even Maraka, it's debilitated. So Rahu is Maraka also and debilitated also. So here Mars will still try to nullify the effects of Angarak Dosh, but here Rahu will create that problem. It will restrict Mars to show its full positive effects. So under such situations, I say the donation for Rahu needs to be done. Beej mantra for Rahu is a must during its Mahadasha and Antardasha, and donation of Rahu is also recommended during its Mahadasha or Antardasha. Mars, when Mars is Yoga Karaka, there is no need to, if in case you still think you can still do Beej mantra for Mars, if in case the degree wise Mars is not strong. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the fifth house, here also Rahu is Neech. Even if Rahu is sitting, no, Rahu is still not sitting in its friendly sign. Rahu is sitting in the sign of Sagittarius. It's enemy sign because Rahu and Jupiter, they are incompatible with each other. Mars still being Yoga Karaka, but here some negative effects of Angarak Dosh will be seen because Rahu is debilitated. Here only that Angarak Yoga can be formed if there is a cancellation of debilitation for Rahu. I think by now you will be able to understand how a debilitated planet becomes a highly auspicious planet when there is a Neech Bhang Raj Yoga. And I had discussed in detail, still pointing it out for one more, just for, example. Suppose in the eighth house, Mars and Rahu is sitting. It will still not be completely because here, suppose in the eighth house, if sorry, I'm just looking at it right now. In the fourth house, Rahu is definitely debilitated, but here I'm so sorry. Here there is a Neech Bhang for Rahu because the eighth lord Mars is sitting with Rahu itself. So there is a Neech Bhang for Rahu. So in the fourth house, there will be Angarak Yoga only, not Angarak Dosh. All right. Because there is a cancellation of debilitation for Rahu. Because Mars is sitting with Rahu and Mars is the lord of the Scorpio, is the planet ruling Scorpio. In the ninth house, let's see. If in the ninth house, if Jupiter is sitting with Mars and Rahu, then there will be a cancellation of debilitation for Rahu. If Ketu is sitting in this particular, Ketu cannot sit anyways because both Rahu and Ketu are opposite to each other. So exalted planet sitting here is out of the question. Only if Jupiter is sitting in this particular house, or if Jupiter is aspecting Rahu from any houses, then only there will be a cancellation of debilitation for Rahu. And in that particular scenario, Rahu will also be a highly auspicious planet and Mars is a Yoga Karaka planet. Rahu will be a Yoga Karaka planet, let's put it in that particular way, and here Angarak Yoga will form. In the sixth house, there will definitely be an Angarak Dosh because even though Mars is Yoga Karaka, it is placed in a bad house. Even though Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn, still it is placed in a bad house, the sixth house, and Rahu placed itself in a bad house, sixth house. So here there will be an Angarak Dosh. I hope you remember one particular point whenever I'm saying that Rahu is Yoga Karaka because it is sitting in its friendly sign. You also need to understand that lot of that particular house, that friendly sign, that lord, how it is placed. If that lord is all badly placed, then even though Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign, Rahu will be Maraka, because Rahu is sitting in a house where that lord of that particular house is badly placed. So Rahu will be Maraka in that particular situation. So you have to always remember this particular point. In the seventh house, if Mars and Rahu both are sitting, so here there will be an Angarak yoga because Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign, the sign of Aquarius. If Mars and Rahu is sitting in the eighth house, again Mars here also will be Maraka, because even though Mars is Yogakarka, is sitting in a bad house, that is the eighth house. In the sixth house, Mars will not be completely Maraka because Mars is still exalted in the sixth house. It will try to diminish the negative aspects of the sixth house. But in the eighth house, Mars will not behave properly. All right. Rahu is also Maraka in the eighth house. So here Angarak Dosh will be forming in the eighth house of the Leo Lagna. In the ninth house, Mars will be Yogakarka, but again Rahu will be Maraka. So here there will be some negative effects of Angarak Dosh. Not complete, but some. If Mars and Rahu are sitting in the 10th house of the Leo Lagna, here Rahu is exalted. Alright, Rahu gets exalted in the sign of Taurus. Mars is also a Yogakarka in this particular house. So here Angarak Yoga will be forming. If Mars and Rahu are sitting in the 11th house of the Leo Lagna, so here Rahu is very well placed, because see, Rahu is sitting in the sign of Gemini and Rahu is exalted in Gemini, and Rahu is also sitting in its Karaka house because Rahu behaves very well auspiciously in the 11th house. So all the matters related to the 11th house, especially fulfillment of desires, here Rahu plays a very significant role in that. It helps to attain that. It helps that individual to attain that. So here Rahu is auspicious. Here Rahu is Yogakarka. Mars is also Yogakarka. So here also a proper Angarak Yoga will be forming. In the 12th house, Mars is debilitated because it is sitting in the sign of Cancer. So Mars will be Maraka. Rahu will also behave badly because it is sitting in its enemy sign also, and it is also sitting in its in a bad house, that is the 12th house. So here again a proper Angarak Dosh will be happening. So I had discussed about all of the houses for Leo Lagna. I hope you have understood how to analyze and how to interpret whether a proper Angarak Dosh is happening for a particular Lagna chart or an Angarak Yoga will be happening. So if it is an Angarak Yoga, so you should not do donation for any of the planets, because both the planets, first of all, individually are Yogakarka, and together also they are creating a kind of a yoga which is helpful in certain areas of life, in certain avenues of life, in particular professional areas of life. Let's now look at one more particular Lagna chart. So you can pause the video and you can draw a Gemini Lagna chart. So let's understand in which particular house and Angarak Dosh will be happening or Angarak Yoga will be happening for a Gemini Lagna. So in a Gemini Lagna, first thing is Mars is Maraka in a Gemini Lagna, alright, because Mars has the lordship of a bad house, 6th house, and a neutral kind of a okay house, 11th house. So Mars is Maraka. So by now I definitely I'm sure you will be able to understand this by your own. If you have watched all of my previous classes, in detail. So if in the first house Mars and Rahu are placed, so here Rahu will be Yoga Karaka because Rahu is placed in its friendly sign Gemini, and Rahu also gets exalted in the sign of Gemini, but Mars will be Maraka. So here some negative effects of Angarak Dosh will be seen. If so, here under such situation where Mars is Maraka but Rahu is Yoga Karaka, so during the Mahadasha or Antardasha or Mahadasha and Antardasha of Mars, you can do the donation, the Dan for Mars. All right. And you can, doing the Beach mantra for Mars is absolutely essential. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the second house of Gemini Lagna, then here Mars is very much Maraka because Mars is debilitated in the sign of Cancer. Rahu is also Maraka because Rahu is sitting in its enemy sign, its incompatible sign, that is the sign of Moon, Cancer. So here a proper Angarak Dosh will be happening. So here under such situation, for both the planets, you are suggested to do the Dan, the donation, and Beej mantra is also a must. Again, I had already discussed the only way for Mars to become Yoga Karka is if Mars has its Neech Bhang, then there will be a Neech Bhang Raj Yoga for Mars. If Mars and Rahu are placed in the third house of Gemini Lagna, then Rahu will be Yoga Karka because even though Rahu is sitting in its enemy sign, that is the sign of Leo, but Rahu is sitting in its Karaka house. So Rahu will never cause any disturbance in the particular house where it is sitting. Its drishti might be negative, might be Maraka, might not be helpful, but where Rahu is sitting in its own Karaka house, Rahu will not create any disturbance in that particular house. So here Rahu will be considered as Yoga Karaka only. But we have to see whether the Lord of this particular house, that is Sun, how is it placed. So for Rahu to be completely Yoga Karaka, Sun needs to be well placed in this particular Gemini Lagna chart. Mars is Maraka, so here some negative effects of Angarak Dosh will be seen. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the fourth house of Gemini Lagna, then Mars here will be Maraka. Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign, that is the sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury. So here there will be some negative effects of Angarak Dosh because Mars is Maraka. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the fifth house of a Gemini Lagna chart, so here Rahu is Yoga Karaka because Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign Libra. Mars will be Maraka. So here under such situation, there will be some negative effects of Angarak Dosh. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the sixth house, then here Rahu is getting debilitated. It is sitting in a bad house. So Rahu will give very inauspicious results. Mars will be having a Vipreet Raj Yoga because the Lord of the sixth house is Mars, and if Mars is placed in either of the sixth house or eighth house or the 12th house, then Mars will have Vipreet Raj Yoga. So Mars will be Yoga Karka if Mars is sitting in this particular house, but Rahu will be Maraka. Rahu can only be Yoga Karka if Rahu will have its Neech Bhang. So there will be some sort of negative disturbance because of Angarak Dosh, because Rahu here in this particular house of a Gemini Lagna will be debilitated. If Rahu and Mars are sitting in the seventh house of Gemini Lagna, then here Rahu is debilitated in the sign of Sagittarius. Mars is also Maraka, so here a proper Angarak Dosh will be happening. Again, for Rahu to become Yogakarka, there needs to be a Neech Bhang for Rahu. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the 8th house of the Gemini Lagna, then here Mars is Maraka. No, sorry, Mars will be Yogakarka because Mars has a Viprit Raj Yoga. Rahu will be Maraka, even though Rahu is sitting in its friendly sign, that is the sign of Capricorn, but Rahu is badly placed in the 8th house. So here there will be some sort of negative disturbance caused because of Angarak Dosh, because Rahu here is not well placed. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the 9th house of a Gemini Lagna, so here Rahu will be Yogakarka, but Mars will be Maraka. So here there will be some sort of negative effects because of Angarak Dosh. If Mars and Rahu are sitting together in the 10th house of Gemini Lagna, just wait a second. Okay, I will go back to the 8th house because here I have to mention, even though Mars is having a Viprit Raj Yoga, Mars is also getting exalted. Alright, so Mars here will be auspicious. But it will not be able to show its complete auspicious properties, auspicious abilities, because Mars itself is placed in a bad house. It's placed in a house where the Karakas of that particular house are not that great. If Mars and Rahu are placed in the 10th house of a Gemini Lagna, here Mars is Maraka, Rahu is also Maraka, so here a proper Angarak Dosh will be happening. If Mars and Rahu are placed if Mars and Rahu are placed in the 11th house of Gemini Lagna, I was just checking whether I had mentioned whether Rahu is having its debilitation in the 6th house or in the 7th house. I believe I had mentioned it, right? Because Rahu gets debilitated in the sign of Scorpio and Sagittarius. In the 11th house, Mars and Rahu, Mars will be Maraka and Rahu will be Yogakarka, because Rahu is considered Yogakarka when Rahu is sitting in the third house and especially in the 11th house. So Rahu will still be Yogakarka even though Rahu is sitting in its incompatible sign, that is in the sign of Aries. So here Mars is also placed in along with Rahu. So here under such situation, Rahu will always be Yogakarka for this particular house. But as Mars is Maraka, so there will be some sort of negative effects from Angarak Dosh. If Mars and Rahu are sitting in the 12th house of a Gemini Lagna, here Mars will be Maraka. Mars will be Yogakarka because Mars is having a Viprit Raj Yoga. Rahu will be exalted in the sign of Taurus. So here Rahu is exalted, Mars is also having a Viprit Raj Yoga. So here the effects of Angarak Dosh will not be that much. Still there will be some sort of negative effects because see, 6th house, 8th house and 12th house are not considered that great, right? So here there will be some sort of negative effects, but still in this particular situation, you can avoid the donation and done, but you can do the Bij mantras, all right? So I believe I had explained in detail how you need to analyze and interpret whether an Angarak Dosh is occurring in a particular Lagna chart, or an Angarak Yoga is forming in a particular Lagna chart. And I had explained to you the process entirely and in complete clarity. All right. So now for practice, you pick up different particular Lagna charts and you place Rahu and Mars in all of the houses of different Lagnas. And from the learning of today's class, apply it in your practice and see in which particular Lagna chart, in which particular house Mars and Rahu will form an Angarak Dosh or will form an Angarak Yoga. All right. So this is what I wanted to discuss in this particular class, what I wanted to share in this particular class. I hope again you are watching my Vedic astrology classes from class 1 and then you are proceeding sequentially in particular order, that is class 1, class 2, class 3 and so on and so forth. It is very essential. It is highly recommended for you to watch all of my classes in detail, watch it again and again. If you seriously want to understand and learn about the correct and accurate concepts and techniques of Vedic astrology, whatever I am sharing, whatever I am teaching will help you to achieve that particular knowledge. And before you go, before you say goodbye, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, watch my videos, like my videos, share my videos, and if you have any doubt, any query, any question related to the topics of Vedic astrology, please share them in the comment section and I will definitely try to answer them. I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.